everybody, and welcome to the episode 77 of the Game Changers. I'm Carla, your host for this episode, featuring Kevin Tompkins. His extensive expertise provides valuable insights into our discussion. We will explore thought-provoking topics to ensure a one-of-a-kind experience for our audience. A special thank you for the SA team for their support in creating this platform for meaningful conversations with community leaders. Join me as I delve into the stories and insight of my guests, especially in the realm of fantasy football. The Game Changers fosters a unique community, and I'm honored to share this journey with all of you tonight. Just a little head up, this is the before the last show of the season. So we only have one more show before taking a little break in May and June. And we will come back in July, guys. So stay tuned in for everything. Who is Kevin Tompkins? Kevin Tompkins is a fantasy football analyst and zero RB evangelist. Kevin Tompkins is a strategist, content creator, and co-owner of Optimus Fantasy, a dedicated advocate of the zero RB draft strategy. Kevin has built a reputation as one of the sharpest minds in the fantasy football community. His work can be found across Rotoballer, Fantasy Pros, Fantasy in Frames, and more, where he delivers expert analysis, rankings, and draft strategies. Known for his spreadsheet wizardry, Kevin has earned the title of the Word and was crowned the 2020 auction champion. Whether breaking down undervalued players or crafting the perfect draft strategy, Kevin's insights are a must follow for fantasy football enthusiasts. Beyond the numbers, Kevin is a diehard fan for Syracuse sports, the Green Bay Packers, and the New York Yankees. When he's not analyzing fantasy football trends, you can find him indulging in his passion for Pokemons, which I'm so interested in talking about it tonight. Kevin, thank you for being on the show tonight. How are you?
I think you covered it. We can probably wrap it up by now, I think. Look, no, you crushed it. Yeah, we're good. Let's just go get a drink. Yeah, that you crushed it. I'm happy to be talking with you. It seems like we meet at the expo, but look, we get to do it before I get to see it in a couple months. So always happy to talk to you. And I can't believe it's only, a couple months away now.
I can't believe that too. Like, I'm so excited. I wait for the expo every single year, and I cannot wait, seriously. Like, I form a really good friendship with a lot of people. One of them is with you, and I cannot wait to just go there and see you, talking to you. Like, face to face is totally different. And yeah. I really, this is something that I really enjoy. So, Kevin, what what drew you to fantasy football in the first place?
So, I mean, I've always been a sports guy. My dad was, I pretty much got all of my teams from my dad. Yes. Idolized him. That's basically where that started. And then he had done fantasy football, pen and paper, like old school. Like he used to do I don't know if you've ever heard of Stratomatic baseball, where you literally you'd have a board, I think, and you have a VHS tape where it would generate, outcomes for baseball. And that's very old school. We're talking early 80s. And then he had done pen and paper fantasy football with some people that he worked with. And I never really I didn't know he did that or anything like that. I'd always just been a football fan. And then, we got the internet. And then, as everybody I think did when they first got on the internet, especially in the late 90s, like Yahoo was massive, and Yahoo always had, you know, the sports stuff and chats and all that. And then I got sucked into, you know, I saw fantasy football, wondered what that was all about. And I drafted a team, you know, auto drafted, and I thought that it was cool. And that kind of led into now my obsession going on 25 years now, since the 1999.
That's amazing, Kevin. So tell me, like, take me through, the past till the future. So what do you want to bring from the past that you really miss? Because right now you see a lot of AI, you see a lot of like online communication. I'm a paper and pen girl, like a diehard paper and pen girl. So if they tell me to do a test online, I'm like, oh my God, I need a paper and pen, like literally. So tell me a little bit about the past and the future. What do you miss from the past for drafting and from the future? And what, like, how do you see it combining something extremely ordinary in your own opinion?
Well, like, as far as something from the past, like, so my first serious fantasy football league was meeting with a bunch of people and doing like live drafts. And that, you know, because, you know, the majority of drafts are done online on like Sleeper
Yeah.
or, you know, whatever draft format you do. You know, it's usually on like My Fantasy League or Yahoo or ESPN, et cetera, et cetera. Like, it's all about the live draft experience for me. So like bring that back, and like home leagues with your friends. You know, my home league from when I was, you know, I used to live in Syracuse, New York. Now I live in North Dakota, but, you know, that kind of dissolved my home league, and I wish it hadn't, because that is something that I kind of miss. And it happens. You lose touch with people, and people are busy,
Sure.
families and etc. But, you know, that certainly, like the live draft and just drafting with your friends. Like, now that I've been in the game here, that like stuff like that is what I miss more than, because if you just do a draft on, you know, Sleeper, it almost feels like almost watered down a little bit, to where it's like, oh, it's another draft. It's whatever. It's the same format as the one I did like 2 weeks ago, and you don't even like think about it. And maybe you don't have like the emotional stakes to it. And that's where you have, you know, you might not be playing for money with your friends, you know, but it's bragging rights. It's like, you know, you can always reference, hey, remember, you know, so and so, and you know, I beat you with this play, and I was down by 50 points. You know, that kind of thing. The emotional stakes of fantasy football when you're doing it with your friends is definitely what I miss. And then the whole live draft aspect. Think about it. Frozen, maybe? Did I get you? Now you're muted. You're muted.
I can unmute. I think
There
I
you
lost
go.
connection, Kevin. I thought I lost you. I lost connection. So sorry about that, you guys. I don't know. I have so much going on today with my Wi-Fi, and my computer didn't want to turn on. So I'm so sorry. I do apologize for that. So yes, Kevin, I do love that. Um, uh, you're talking about the live drafts that you do with your friends, and you just try to communicate that, remember this, remember that. So
Yeah.
I love this communication back and forth. That's why I love being in live drafting and just watching people, interact. Do you go to any live drafting?
Yeah, like I've gone to the Scott Fish in Minneapolis. I've gone to that
Yeah.
one. I think the last 3 years, I believe. It's 3 or 4, and I can't remember. It's the old age in me. But you know, that's always a blast. Every June I get to see, you know, people like you know, Rachel in the chat, Tootsie Pop. I get to see her every year.
Nice.
And then obviously Scott Fish and, a lot of other people, a lot of great Justin, get to see him. So, always a lot of fun, hanging out with those people, drafting and, not a lot of, zero RB going on there with the live drafting, especially in Scott Fish Bowl, but happy to carry that mantle.
Nice. I love that. So you're talking about, so what's the biggest misconception of zero?
You're cutting out a little bit. I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
I don't know if you heard me, Kevin.
I heard part of it. It cut out.
So what's the biggest misconception about zero RB?
That, it's not successful, that it doesn't, it's won people, on Underdog, on like Best Ball, it's won people literal millions of dollars. And people think that it's like a fad or, it's a passing, it happened to be a coincidence that, people win. It's not something that you should do every time. And, take it from me. It's a tool in your toolbox that you can use when you're drafting. You're not going to use it every time. You don't have to use it every time, but it's something that you should, if a draft falls a certain way, to know what to do and how to use, what the draft is giving you to your advantage. So if you're in a very running back heavy, first round for whatever reason, you can take the value of maybe, you can end up with a Amon-Ra St. Brown, Puka Nacua 1-2 turn if you're at the end of the first round. And, those are guys that you're rarely ever going to get past like even the 7th or 8th pick. So, it's just a lot of misconceptions about zero RB and, that it's, that it's not successful anymore, that because more people are doing it, that it waters it down. Actually, to the contrary, where, we've seen with running backs last year, we got, a lot of very healthy running backs, more than the norm last season. And we saw a lot of wide receivers get hurt too. And I feel like that's an anomaly where, as we've seen, running backs tend to get hurt a lot more than wide receivers. And, because we had that kind of variation last year, we're going to see probably a return to the mean. And that's where he can really take advantage, where people are acting like what happened last year is always going to happen going forward.
You never know what's going to happen in a game. I mean, you are sitting and watching, and out of nowhere, someone that never got hurt before just got hurt. Like this year, I was watching the Chief, and a lot of good players, they got hurt.
Rashee Rice.
The game. Yes, like we were, Doug and I, we were always sitting and talking about, oh my God, like he's gonna be hurt at some point. I don't know how he's getting out with no injuries for 2+ years, and out of nowhere he just got hurt and he never played this year. So you cannot know who's gonna be hurt and who's gonna continue the game, and that's part of how beautiful that game is, right? So
yeah, I mean, each week is its own, like ecosystem where, and it's funny because you talk about Rashee Rice, it's the chaos of the NFL season. Like who had it on their like bingo card that Patrick Mahomes would throw an interception, and on a tackle trying to tackle the interceptor, Mahomes would injure his own wide receiver and make it, that's nobody had that on their bingo card, but it's the chaos of the NFL season. It comes for everybody. It does not play favorites. And each week is its own, like, like I said, like an ecosystem where it's just one week is separate from another. You got to treat them differently.
You cannot know what's going to happen next. So that's amazing. So what's the most underrated fantasy football strategy in your opinion?
I mean, just based on the general, idea of fantasy, I still think, because even though more people are doing it, I still think zero RB, just knowing what we know and using, the trends, just like macro trends of because running backs are touching the ball more than wide receivers, you have the propensity to get hurt. So, using that to your advantage and then knowing that you can get good running backs later on in the draft. We've seen Bucky Irving, Chuba Hubbard, and then the year before, Raheem Mostert had 17 touchdowns on the ground. You can find these running backs so late that it makes, it doesn't make a lot of sense to tie up a lot of your draft capital in the running back position, where those are the guys that are getting hurt the most. And not only that, they're not scoring as many points as the top wide receivers. So, with the committee running back, kind of shallowing out the pool a little bit, with more passing volume in the league, you're seeing, we can't treat fantasy football like it was in 2008, where 12 running backs had 300 plus carries. That's not this league anymore. It's a passing league with committee running backs, and you're going to have your Derrick Henrys, but Derrick Henrys, you're not going to see very many of those. And there's a reason why the Bijan Robinsons and the Saquon Barkleys go, in the first 6-7 picks, because those are like the only true bell cow backs there are. Everybody else is really in a timeshare of some form or fashion.
So we were talking about your instincts and how every single week, fantasy football changes. How do you balance analytics with gut instinct in fantasy football, Kevin?
Well, I tend to I try to look at just the important things, as far as like team aspects. So like how much a player is getting used, maybe with like 11 personnel, how much they're using like 3 wide receivers, and how much personnel a team uses. Like you look at a team like the Baltimore Ravens, where they would use a lot of 2 tight end sets and like that. So Isaiah Likely becomes a little more relevant there. And then you look at a team like maybe the Denver Broncos, where they use so many different players. They use 4 tight ends every single game. They use all 3 running backs and a fullback. Cortland Sutton is the only pass catcher that gets 90% or more snaps. So that's what I look at when you're trying to sift through value on a team, where you look at a guy like Marvin Mims, where he is very efficient when he does get the ball, and when he does get on the field. But the thing is, he just doesn't get on the field enough for it to matter in fantasy. Like I think last season, he didn't have one game where he played over half of the routes available on the team. Like the next time he'll run over 50% of routes will be the first time since the end of 2023. So that's like the stuff that I look for, where we're all anointing Marvin Mims as like the next big sleeper in fantasy, but it's hard to score points when you're not on the field, and you have to be just ridiculously efficient. And as we know, you can't always be efficient. So that's, and they've cleared out maybe their depth chart a little bit, but still it's a tough ask for, even if he runs like 60%, that's still not a lot of, time on the field. You have to maximize every single snap, every single touch you get. And that's just hard to do for one player.
Agreed. So let's say you drafted and you found out that you have a bad draft at some point. What's the best way to recover from a bad draft?
Say I was hacked. Say it was AI who did that and completely scrubbed my no. No, there's definitely ways, especially in like redraft when you have the waiver wire. It's very easy in that way to do that. Best ball, it is what it is, and you kind of chalk it up to, and it's the same thing too, where the teams like emotionally, the teams that do the best are the ones you feel the worst about. It always seems to work out that way, where the teams you feel great about finish in 11th place. So, I kind of try to use that, but redraft, it's very easy to recover, especially we know especially in the first like couple weeks, you can kind of churn your roster and turn it over pretty quickly. And then there's always, a couple players here and there, throughout the season that if you're able to get them or like, save your waiver claim or save your fab, that can be another way to kind of turn it over too. But yeah, it's definitely a lot easier in like redraft. It's easy in dynasty as well because you can, if you do like a startup and you can just trade off your assets and get picks. But like best ball, just chalk it up to a loser, and hopefully you have more teams that are doing a lot better.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's continue with the drafting and everything. What's your approach to trading in fantasy leagues?
I'm actually not. That's why I'm not a big dynasty guy. I'm not a big trader. Like, I don't know what it is, with that. And I don't know because I don't care about if I, the perceived I lost a trade. I don't care about that as long as, it's, I get something that I want in return, and maybe, the same, because a good trade should benefit both sides of the equation. And then redraft, it's the same principle. You want to try to make a trade that's going to benefit both teams. You don't want to just go out and, try to fleece somebody and kind of pull one over on somebody. That's not a great way to, forge, long lasting, if you, especially it's a dynasty league, you're basically eliminating one team from, a potential trade partner. But yeah, it's like for dynasty, like I've never been a big trade, a trade guy, but I can't even remember the last redraft trade I've made. Actually, no, I lied. King's Classic, actually, the last trade I made, it was I think it was Jim Coventry. I think it was Jonathan Mingo for Cole Kmet like 2 years ago. So yeah, that's literally the last redraft trade I can think of. And I've offered, and people just people love trades, and I don't get enough trade offers. Maybe I would if people would offer me some, because I offered trades to people and they just say no. So you know what? Then I'll just keep my team. I'll win. That's fine.
Awesome. Talking, yeah. I'm not sure. I'm seeing. I'm so sorry about my Wi-Fi tonight, Kevin. So I'm seeing you talking. I'm not sure if you're finishing before I speak up. So talking about Jim Coventry, he's coming next week after your episode to on the show. So that's really amazing. I love the King Classic. So I sit there every single year at the expo, and I see you guys like drafting, enjoying your time. What can you tell me about your drafting at the King Classic, especially that every single year, like someone different wins the King Classic? And how do you approach that drafting at the expo?
Yeah, so me and Brian Drake, we split. For Fighting Chance Fantasy. He does the snake draft in the Jim Brown division. I do. Yeah, he does the snake draft, so I do the auction. And I love, I've never been an auction guy before coming to the King's Classic and doing those drafts. And now I can't get enough of it. It is the draft that I look forward to every single year. And then, yeah, you always get some new blood in there. But, you talk about you have to not only worry about what player is being nominated and kind of managing a budget, but you have to play the people too that you're bidding with. Like, it's always fun getting into a bidding war with Colby Conway or with JJ Zacharyson or Jim Coventry or Bob Harris or any of those guys. It's a lot of fun. Me and Bob Harris have gotten into our wars over, I think, Jeff Wilson the last few years before that. But it's a lot of fun. It's the draft I look forward to the most. And, I'm always happy about my team that I come out with. So, outside of 2022, when I ended up bringing home a belt, maybe that's the thing when I was talking about before. I feel great about my team, but I ended up, finishing in the middle of the pack. So maybe I just got to say how my team stinks and I'll win again.
Oh my God. I love that. I love that, Bob. I get to see Bob as well at the expo, and I get to see a lot of familiar faces.
Yep.
I really can't wait. Did you book your ticket yet and book everything, your travel stuff?
I have not. I've actually been very late on that. I do have to do that though. I got to start getting everything situated for that. But yeah, and and speaking of the King's Classic, I always have my whenever me and Doug get together, we always have a nice little powwow for good 15, 20 minutes about the teams we draft in that league too. So that's always, a highlight of getting together. And yeah, bad draft never happened. I wish, brother. I wish.
Yeah, right, right. They don't happen in Doug's Doug's opinion.
Sure, buddy. Sure.
Yeah. So evaluate rookies, Kevin, in fantasy football.
Oh, I didn't catch the beginning of that. I'm sorry.
How do you evaluate rookies in fantasy
Oh, with
football?
rookies, as far as rookies go, they're some of the best value that you can get on, especially in redraft, because they're almost like the mystery box option where you don't quite know how to evaluate them. Obviously, the NFL draft, we're right on the doorstep of that. And so it's going to be very, very relevant when we're getting landing spots for a lot of these guys. But that's pretty much all we're going to have to go on, because we're going to enter the lull period, for the next month or so. We got the off-season camps, but then training camp in July, we won't have much to go on. So we're really going on like vibes and like some training camp reports for a lot of these guys, and maybe the depth charts and where these guys fit in. We know some stuff about the prospects, but not everything translates from college to the pros. Nobody really saw Puka Nacua coming on the Rams, and then he ended up, starting, and Puka Nacua was a superstar. And then, you look at, a guy like in his rookie season, Quentin Johnston, who was a first round pick, and, he looked like he was almost out of the league. I mean, look at a guy like Jalen Polk, who pretty much is out of the league, right? I mean, not out of the league, but he is, a second round pick that does not look like he's slated for any playing time in New England. But yeah, that's the thing, is we don't know a lot about these guys. So we're really just going on vibes. And that's because of that, their prices in, when you're taking them in fantasy drafts are going to be a lot lower than they should. I mean, you're going to have the Ashton Genty, the running back, where he's going to be probably a 1-2 turn pick, or at, worst in the beginning part of the second round, where wherever he's going is going to be a spot that A, needs a running back, B, is going to offer him 250 carries. So he is like the safest bet as far as a guy that you can, translate a workload into. But like Pat McMillan, like some of these wide receivers, like it's going to depend on the landing spot. It's going to depend on a lot of factors. And because of that, their prices are going to go very low in redraft. And that's where you can pick up a lot of these guys a lot cheaper than they should. So I love drafting rookies. I will dumb down the average age of my, roster just so I can get a bunch of these rookies. And they're like, souped up scratch tickets where, you're going to pick up a Xavier Worthy and, the Bucky Irving and those guys that are just going to, enhance your roster.
That's awesome. So Fantasy Dog is saying that he had 37% of Puka rookie his year, but he didn't win.
Should have had 38.
Now you hear it, Fantasy Dog. You should have had 38. 1% makes a difference. So what's been the biggest challenge here, Kevin?
What's been the biggest challenge? I'm sorry, I cut out a little bit again.
I know. I really apologize today.
You're fine. You're fine.
I don't know what's going on.
You're fine. Well, so I only got the like the end of that.
So what's been the biggest change in your career?
The biggest change in what? I'm sorry, I cut out again. I'm gonna get you a big Ethernet cord. We're gonna get you hardwired.
Yeah, the biggest challenge in your career.
Oh, biggest
I
challenge.
think I'm gonna yeah.
Okay. Yeah, as far as the biggest challenge, that's tough. Really just I think it's just adapting to, you know, trends within the industry. Like when I started writing, it was very obviously writing based, you know, in 2018, 2019, and then we got the pandemic. And then a lot of things, everybody was home, everybody had time to do a lot more things. So, you know, with video, you know, shorts, TikTok, things like that, that really changed the industry as far as how people digest information. Because not everybody has the time to read a 8-minute article about, you know, your third year breakout wide receivers, but a lot of people have time to go on TikTok and swipe and check out, you know, the 30-second video with some quick digestible information. So that is really where a lot of the change in the industry and just having to shape what you do to how people digest information.
Okay, hopefully now it's going to be much better because I just logged into from my cell phone. Kevin, can you
Yeah,
hear
you're
me
good now.
better? Awesome.
Yes.
So we're trying to fix it, which is great. I see my daughter in the chat, so I'm gonna say hi to her because she just sent me what's the link. So hi to Cassia. Everybody knows Cassia from me talking about her the whole time. So now she's in the chat. So let's talk a little bit about your content creation and your personal life, Kevin. I know that you have a different maybe job from fantasy football. Maybe you want to share with us. So how can you balance like your personal job and fantasy football, and what can you tell people about balancing stuff in the correct way?
Yeah, so as far as like what I do, like I actually my everything I do for fantasy, and I do mostly editing, but that's my income. That's what I do, you know,
Nice.
for a bunch of different sites. So before when I came to North Dakota, I was a travel agent. About the worst job that you can have during the pandemic. Like if you did like a family feud board of, you know, 100 people, we surveyed 100 people, you know, what's the worst job to have the pandemic? Travel agent is probably the number one answer. Steve Harvey is pointing up at that board. But yeah, so I ended up, you know, after that it was basically all cancellations. Once the pandemic happened, because everybody was canceling cruises and vacations and
Yes.
you name it, rental cars. And so I ended up leaving, and you know, Ryan Hallam, you know, ended up helping me, you know, get another job with Fantasy Alarm,
Wow.
doing some editing, and so that turned into basically betting on myself and trying to do this, you know, as a full-time kind of thing and being able to support myself. So you know, through that and through a lot of, you know, good fortune and a lot of, you know, great people that I met, I'm able to at least you know, support myself doing this for a living, at least for now, because we know the economy is not the greatest right now, but you know, we definitely try to make it work. But yes, this is what I do. So this is my home office and get to, you know, edit content, you know, for a bunch of different sites, a bunch of news sites as well. And
Yes.
I love doing that. I love what I do. But, you know, and then the fantasy, you know, kind of balancing that is really just, you know, being very organized, being very schedule oriented, because I am a absolute neat freak. I am a very schedule based person, to where I have my second monitor. The background is a full on schedule with everything that I do down to the time. So I
Yes.
block off my time. and I set, from 9:40 to 10 o'clock a.m. I'm doing this. From 10 to
Wow.
10:30 I'm doing this, and that keeps my ADD brain, my OCD brain, that keeps me good.
That's crazy. So, Kevin, talking about all of this, how do you handle criticism in the fantasy football community?
Honestly, and I'll be honest with it. I feel like I could probably maybe be a little better at it. I mean, I know that, everybody wants to believe that they're like the best person for a specific thing or a job. And I don't think that's realistic, and to know what the limits are and to know, what you can do, what you can't do, what you need to improve on. And I think that's probably, in some um things with fantasy, with different companies, whether, you know, oh, it doesn't really matter what it is, but just like taking criticism, I think is very important. One of the most important things to be able to do, to know, to have some kind of that humility where you can say,
Agreed.
I do need to improve on this. They're not just saying that to knock you down a peg. They have your best interest in mind as far as wanting you to improve. So that's probably, where I think where I need to improve the most. But I don't think that I think there's some people that could probably use a little bit more, humility with that. That kind of throws up
Yes.
the alarm a little bit. But that's we all have things we need to improve on.
I agree 100%, especially nowadays. Like, we don't see it a lot, and people hide behind like a phone or computer or anything, and they
Mhm.
start trashing a lot of people just for the love of it, which I don't see it compelling at some sort. And yes, we need humanity, we need people to get that nice sense into them more. um, so, Kevin, what's your favorite part about working with Optimus Fantasy?
So I got together with Nate at the expo last year, and him and Herms off the back patio at the
Yes.
hotel. The big fire pit. Everybody congregates there. We if you know, you know. But yeah, just talking about some stuff related to fantasy, and then getting into what Nate and his wife Jen have been doing with Optimus. And it's a very, very compelling thing as far as what I can bring to the table as far as being in the industry for a little bit of time here, the things I've seen, the things I've done, and being able to help other content creators kind of find their way through the industry, and then bring up new voices, bring up, a site. And, we're starting to get our feet wet with a lot more things. Like, we're going to be, putting out a lot more video content in the next, especially with the draft, like myself,
Awesome.
Carly Manger, Lou Brunson, Casey Kasem, who I've known forever.
Yes.
Which, by the way, Casey, I wouldn't be in the fantasy football industry if it were not for Casey, because Casey was one of the first people I ever followed, and I had no idea she did fantasy football. We're talking, this is like
I love
2014.
that.
Yeah. So,
I
and
love
she ended
that.
up working for Fighting Chance Fantasy and writing. And I DM'd her. I said, hey, this site you're writing for, are they looking for people? That was actually my origin story on how, because I got linked up with Brian Hallam that way. And
Yes.
so that's my origin story. And that's thanks to Casey.
I love that. I love that you're sharing about Brian and Casey Kasem and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I like, we are um we have a great community, and I just love that everybody can help everyone at some point of our life, and we do connect for a reason, Kevin. And to say that out loud, it's really like a humbling. And thank you, really, thank you for sharing that this stuff.
Yes.
So I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to go from fantasy football because I see that my daughter is saying that her friends are saying hi. And I know that you're big into Pokemon. So maybe my daughter is at CCSU. She is a college student. And maybe her friends, like Pokemon stuff. So let's go a little bit about Pokemon and a little fun and random questions here. So what's your favorite Pokemon, Kevin?
So I am one of the original, like, is when it first came out, 1996, 1997. I was 12, 13 years old. So I've been a fan that far back. And one of the original 151, Starmie, has always been my favorite, because I used to do competitive battling as well.
Wow.
Not a lot of people. I haven't really gone down that rabbit hole, but I've done some of the they have the regionals for the Pokemon World Championships, and I've done those a couple times. So I've been around that block too. But yeah, I am when people say they are in it, like I am
I'm in
in.
it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, Kevin. That's amazing. She's saying that her friends don't know anything. But I'm gonna keep talking about Pokemon. So
Yeah.
that's really crazy. I didn't know that you're like into Pokemon. So at some point in my life, like my older son Joe, he used to collect the cards. Do you collect Pokemon cards? Do you still have them, Kevin?
I have so I had some of the original cards, and
Yes.
I think they got lost in a move, but I remember they were not in good shape. But as we know, even if they're in bad shape, those cards, the original base set, are worth just
Yes.
astronomical. Yeah. I don't collect the physical cards as much as I would like to, but especially now with a lot of the pricey sets, like that hobby is booming, and
It
it's
is.
very hard. It's very hard to get into it again now. If you're just starting out, wanting to collect, it is a very, very high, barrier for entry, because people scalping sets, people, price gouging, and then people just the unavailability of a lot of the, if you just want Pokemon cards, like, but just buy a couple packs, it's hard to do because people will buy them as soon as they put them out. It's tough. But I
It's
do
super
play
expensive.
it is, but I do have the trading card, the one on the phone, that app. So I am very, very well into the trading card game on the phone.
Oh my God, I didn't know they have trading cards right now on the phone. I'm out of it. Like I said, I started with my older son with with buying cards. I used to buy him like every single package that comes into the store. It was crazy. We had a lot of cards, so I tried to give them away at some point because I didn't know that it's gonna be like something like that, something big at some point. So, talking about Pokemon, what's your favorite movie for Pokemon?
I think, oh man, it's one of two. It's
Yeah,
probably it might be the original movie. But I do
yes.
like the
Pocky Pocky?
the one to 2001 with Lugia. I think that might be it's between the first movie and the 2000 with Lugia.
Yeah,
I think it's the original, because I don't think I've ever seen like the other ones, because they've made so many
they
based on
did.
whatever like generation. Like we're the next Pokemon game, the mainline game that we get for the Switch 2, I would assume, would be the 10th generation. That's another
Yes.
set of 100 plus Pokemon being entered into because there's 1,028 right now, and there's going
My
to be another 150 coming in whenever they do that for the new Switch system. So for all those generations, there's been multiple movies based on them. So we're probably talking a good 18, 20 movies
That's
But
insane.
it's it's one of the biggest franchises, if not the
I
biggest
agree.
in the world. So, there's
Yeah.
always the appetite for it.
Do you still play the game? Because I remember, I think when we were hit by COVID, the people start walking around and trying collecting Pokemons.
Mhm.
Did you start playing that?
I
You
played
still
that
playing it?
I do still play that from time to time. Day one, I played
Really?
that Pokemon Go. Um, I
Yes.
remember I remember being in Syracuse. I lived in Liverpool, which is a suburb of Syracuse, which is funny because Brian Drake, obviously he lives in the same area and
Yeah.
we're good friends. I never knew him when I lived in Liverpool or Syracuse. I never knew him. I only
Wow.
met him for the first time at the Expo after I moved to North Dakota, which is it's funny the way things work out. But yeah, going to one of the park Onondaga Lake Park where there's a lot of trails and stuff like that, and basically that day that the game came out is you you were almost shoulder to shoulder with people because everybody was walking around that park trying to catch Pokemon, and like the actual games on like the systems, I do play those as well too. I have all of them, and so there's an app called Pokemon Home,
Yeah.
where you can catch Pokemon, and then you can transfer them over as like that's like a storage system for so you can
Wow.
transfer into like Pokemon Home and then transfer them out to like a different game if they're able to go in that game. I have every single one. Like they said, gotta catch them all. I have caught them all because
Oh my God, Kevin.
I am a nerd.
I really love it. I didn't know you do that. It's something really wonderful. I really like that because like I used to play it with my kids. I know that I'm out of it a little bit, but I know a lot about these games. And maybe we can talk at the expo about it at some point
Yeah.
and you can show me all of this.
Yeah, that'll be
That's
one of the more rousing
crazy.
conversations. What are you guys talking about?
I know. I
That'll be
know.
fun.
Yeah, yeah. Like JC was saying, like football cards are expensive. And sometimes, literally, I was searching for a card. It's thousands of dollars. They sell
Yeah.
it for thousands of dollars. It's insane, and they are more than football cards at times. It's something
Yeah.
weird at some point, but it's something fun as well.
Yeah, and
So
football's tough because as
yeah,
far as, I grew up in the wrong generation because with football cards, when I was a kid, we're talking about the 90s here,
yes,
that's with cards were like worth nothing almost
nothing.
because they
I
were
agree.
so mass produced. And now, with cards, like the Panini Prisms and like that's almost all I know because there's so many sets of football cards out there that are worth they have the limited print runs and they have like the briefcases that you have like 6 cards and they're worth like $10,000 because they're all like autographed and you get the most
Oh my
random
God,
things in there. But yeah,
that's
the hobby is just
crazy.
insane. The hobby is insane.
I just want to say hi to Wendy because sometimes she comes in and um, she's my sister and she's saying that she's sick, but she just came in to say hi to you, Kevin, and to me. Please, Wendy, feel better soon.
Feel better,
And we
Wendy.
love you so much. And I love everybody. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight. Um, Kevin, let's talk a little bit about podcasting. So, what's your favorite part about podcasting, especially that you are sitting on the other side of podcasting tonight? But tell me,
Yeah,
what's your best part of it?
yeah, like probably just getting to yap and get my loud voice out there and
Yeah.
interrupt people. No, um, like I just love being able to not because I do like to write and that's like one of the first things I did and love doing, and I love creative writing. Like even going back to like school, like I've always loved writing and creative writing and being able to express myself through word, and
Yes.
then not only that, but reading and reading other people's works, and because the only way you're going to become a better writer is if you read good writing. So,
Agree.
and it's the same thing with, podcasting, doing streams where you don't get better unless you hear good people. Like Brian Drake does not get enough recognition in this space
I
for
agree.
being one of the best hosts. He has that radio voice that it's Brian Drake, and
Yes.
he is one of the best. And this is going back, to the fantasy football hustle with Dwayne McFarland when they had their show, and obviously he's done stuff for Fighting Chance Fantasy as well, going back even further than that. But yeah, you want to listen to some good, people being able to
People.
talk about football. It doesn't even matter about football, just anything. You want to hear people, how confident they are, how, to be able to not ramble, to be able to say a lot of words in as little, if it makes sense, a lot of words, but in as little words as possible, like being concise and being able to do that. But not only that, in a fun, engaging way,
Yes.
is awesome. So, being able to listen to people that are fantastic at their craft, people like, obviously Brian Drake, like Peter Oberzet, Ben Gretsch, JJ Zacharyson, guys like that are, I don't think get enough credit for being fantastic at what they do, but not only just from like a
I
writing
agree.
standpoint with some of that, but just being able to get their voice out there and being able to get their ideas out in a concise, clear way while being engaging.
So, talking about all of this, which I totally agree with you, Kevin. So, what's like, I'm not sure why a lot of people that they are really good in this industry, they don't have a bigger voice. So, why do you think that's an issue in our industry, in the fantasy football industry per se?
That's a good question, because there are a lot of people, and that goes the other way too, where people, maybe they're great, on a podcast, but it's hard to put that same kind of, maybe the enthusiasm, and then maybe like just putting ideas together on, in a Word doc, or however you do it, and that
Yes.
goes the same, where maybe you're not the greatest writer, but you could talk somebody into your stream, you can get all the people into your stream, and you can talk, it's you listen to that person read the phone book, or read the dictionary. Like, that's, I do love that. And the best people, obviously in the industry, can do both. I think JJ Zacharyson is one of the best in terms
Yeah.
of, he's able to put his ideas, clearly, obviously with his late round, lateround.com, but then also being able to do his streams and, just wherever he goes, he's certainly one of the best. And, if for some reason you haven't listened to him enough, go certainly do that. Don't do it now. Don't click off here, but do it after. But yeah,
Agree.
so yeah, exactly. But I do love, just hearing, how, because, we going back to the previous point of, you want to get better by hearing great podcasters. And, you get the people that maybe can't write, but, can podcast, and then the reverse is true too.
That's good to know. So, we're talking about podcasting, and I know that you are part of that. But what's the biggest challenge in running a fantasy football podcast for you, Kevin?
I mean, there's a lot more involved now. Like, people want to just say it's easy to just go buy a microphone and, or a webcam, or, if you're streaming a webcam, you really just need a microphone and you hook it up to your computer and you're off to the races. But if you want, to do it, potentially make it into something, then, you have to start learning, how to manage YouTube, and possibly learn how to do SEO.
Yeah.
And not only that, but like branding is very difficult if you're not with, somebody already, as far as like a site affiliation or anything like that. But if you're just, want to get your thoughts out there, it is very easy. And don't want to worry about it if you're just doing it just to do it. Like, it's never been a better time to just get your voice out there to do that, because maybe that's something where you maybe had some apprehension and didn't know if, because I had that too. I think almost everybody has that, where you're like, do people want to listen to what I have to say? Am I going to sound like a goober, into this microphone? I told myself that probably 5 minutes before I hopped on with you. I think it's very natural to have those feelings, but when you get in front of a microphone, I love it. And I can't imagine not getting able to do it regularly. Cause I do it, twice a week with Nate, Polvote, and then obviously with Keith Fleming and Nate, at the end of the week too. We're doing a stream for 6 hours starting tomorrow for the NFL draft. So that's going to be a lot of fun, certainly. But yeah, you have to be, with everything, it takes reps. Like you have to, if you want to start doing it a little bit, you have to start, maybe you don't need to have like the microphone to do it. You just need to like stand in front of a mirror. Like it's almost like the public speaking thing where, to get better at that, stand in front of a mirror and talk, get used to hearing yourself talk about a certain, gain some confidence. And then, you can do whatever you want, outside of that. But yeah, I do think that people do get it. They get in their heads a little bit with, maybe somebody doesn't want to hear me, or I don't like the way my voice sounds, but just take the plunge, because you're probably going to find you like it a lot more than you thought you would. And that's certainly what it was with me.
I love public speaking. So I'm a huge public speaker and I talk to people a lot, but I never in a million years thought of having a podcast. And Greg Kellogg, out of nowhere, he connected me with the Sports Affiliation and Wendy, and we started something. Probably, I don't know if it's new, but we started something special, to say the least. And I just love it. I love connecting with people. I love talking to people. But I'll tell you this, I never go back and listen to myself because I hate my voice.
I don't either.
Even though everybody tells me I have a beautiful accent, but I don't like my accent.
I can't listen to myself. I can't do it. Like I as soon as it's done, like unless I have to go in and like edit it or post it, I'm done with it. Like I can't do that.
Me too. I'm done with it. So I'm gonna tell you, you're genuine. You have a great voice. Just letting you know, and you have it all, Kevin. So just letting you know. So don't question yourself. You're amazing.
Well, that makes two of us.
I appreciate that. What's your dream guest for your podcast?
It's hard because 2022 I had myself, Andrew Cooper, and Britt Flynn. We had Matthew Berry on. So ahead of Matthew Berry, I don't know like where you can go. Like God, I don't even know. I'm trying to think. Maybe the fantasy footballers at this point, because they're so massive, or getting like an NFL player. Like I could probably finagle that if I really tried to get an NFL player on. But I know that's tough. Like I had a friend of mine, Jameson Tyon, who pitches for the Chicago Cubs. We did a best ball draft with him a couple years ago when he was on the Yankees. Yankees being my favorite team. So that was we got connected actually through a charity for Fantasy Face Off. We actually got connected, and we've been friends ever since. And talk fantasy. Obviously they're in their season right now, but I've helped him do the Yankees clubhouse draft a couple years ago with like you think Aaron Judge and Brett Gardner and all these other guys. Like a couple people would tag team and do like would share a team, and I've heard some fun stories about we all have the fantasy stories that we talk about where he tried to get a trade on me and I wasn't gonna let it and it got vetoed. that happens to like everybody. That happens to professional athletes. That happens to celebrities. That happens to everybody. So,
Yes.
they're just like us. They're just because they're in a much higher tax bracket than we are doesn't mean they don't, try to squabble over, trades and wanting to get one over on their catcher or their rotation mate, on a baseball team.
Oh my God, my daughter is going to make me cry at some point. The only voice I want to hear is mom. Come on now. I love you.
All right, I'm going to hit the mute button. Carla, it is yours in 3.
I love that. I love that my kids, get to come to the podcast and say hi once in a blue moon.
It's awesome.
So let's talk a little bit about your favorite Syracuse sport, Kevin. What's your favorite Syracuse sports memory?
Probably the 2003 national title that Syracuse won in basketball.
Yeah.
Followed that team, went to every single home game. Got to go to New Orleans for the national title. That was absolutely wild. Just that team with Carmelo Anthony and Jerry McNamara and Hakeem Warwick, and that team was special. But I don't think a lot of people thought they would go all, and I certainly did. It's tough. A lot of people say, "Oh, we're going all the way," and maybe I'm a little bit more of a pessimist than I let on. But maybe not, because if you follow me on social media, maybe you get a little bit of that. But that team was that they're special, and then there's that team that just everything fell into place perfectly with that team, and they ended up beating Kansas 81-78. Sorry, Heath Cummings, who I always, whenever I see him or talk to him, I always make sure I mention that Syracuse beat his Kansas Jayhawks. That's by far and away my favorite, Syracuse anything, because football hasn't been that good, from like Donovan McNabb in the mid 90s to about the last year or so. It's not been good.
Oh my God. So how did you become a Green Bay Packers fan, Kevin?
Yeah, so my grandfather is originally from Madison, Wisconsin. He was in the Korean War, and when he got done, he got a job at General Electric, which there's a massive plant in Liverpool, New York. So he moved there, started the family, and basically, because he was a Packers fan going back. Obviously, that was the heyday. We're talking getting into the 60s, where Green Bay was like the team of the 60s, winning all the first 2 Super Bowls as well as NFL championships. My dad became a Packers fan. My uncles, my aunt, my grandma, everybody became a Packers fan. So just trickled down. But I think that's a lot of people. Why aren't you a fan of the team that you're in, the city you're in, or whatever? I mean, I'm from Syracuse, and New York City is 4.5 hours away southeast, and Buffalo's 3 hours west. I mean, it's not like that close, but yeah. So just the Packers just kind of trickled down from the family.
Like, I have a football team here next to me, but I like my Kansas City football team, so it doesn't matter. You follow what your heart wants, right?
Yep.
So we're talking a little bit about everything that you like in sports and stuff like that. So did you ever attended like a live sports event, Kevin? And if yes, which one did you attend, and what memories do you hold from that?
I mean, I've been to quite a few. I've been to, let's see. I've been to the 2003 National Championship in New Orleans, both Final Four games, against Kansas in the National Championship game. And then let's see. I've been to a few Packer games. I've been to a few Yankee games. I've actually lately I've been to actually more wrestling than I have sports, just because it's just the way. And you know what, Doug? Fargo does have a team. It's not professional baseball. It's not even they have a hockey team that's not professional either, but it is what it is. But you know, we're small and we're proud and we're mighty here in Fargo. But no, as far as let's see, the last like sporting event it would be North Dakota State football.
Yeah.
Because they've been, obviously national champions. They've been. I think I went last year. I went to a game. I can't remember which one, but I mean, Fargo Brewing Company just closed. So that's tough scene. We talk about the economy. Certainly that's one of the casualties there, but yeah, Fargo has a lot of great breweries. Drecker, certainly one of my favorites as well. So, but yeah, I mean, there's quite a few sports. Like I've been to a couple Twins Yankees games, and then some other NDSU stuff. But like since the pandemic, I haven't done much in the way of like sports. Like I don't think I haven't been to a Packers game since 2018. I want to say 2018.
Wow.
And that was, I don't remember if you know, I don't know if you remember the Matthew Berry went on a huge rant about Alfred Morris, like 2018. It was a big fantasy to do where I think he started Alfred Morris and Scott Fishbowl in 2018, and I think he needed like 0.9 points to beat whoever in the week, and Alfred Morris got one carry in that game, and it was called back on a holding, and Matt Breida ended up taking all the carries, and on the ESPN, the podcast used to do with Mike Clay and Field Yates, he went off on this epic rant, and I was at that game. That's like the only, I think that was it was 2018 because it was Monday Night Football, but I think that was the last NFL game I've been to. Like,
wow.
The pandemic it's tough because obviously a lot of things changed with that, and I'm more of an indoor guy. I feel like now I still go out and do whatever, but I'm more comfortable just working and doing more stuff now. But I would have liked to gotten to the draft in Green Bay tomorrow, by the way, but
yes, that's awesome. So I do see that JC is asking you to have Scott's Fishbowl in Fargo in 2026. So what do you think about that?
I mean, how many people we get into this thing? I don't know if the Minnesota, Minneapolis people are coming here. I would love that, but
never know.
We're talking. Yeah, you never know, but we're talking Scott Fish's home court here in Minneapolis.
Yeah,
but if y'all want to come, I mean, hosted at Drecker 2026. Let's go. I'm down.
It's international. So Kevin, I know I want to be respectful for your time, but I know that we started like a little bit tough at the beginning of the this episode. Can we continue a little bit, or you have a limit to leave?
No, you're good.
Okay. Just I want to be respectful for your time, but I didn't ask so many questions, and I'm so interested in knowing more about the person you are. So tell me a little bit about, we were talking at the beginning that you co-own Optimus Fantasy. What can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so myself and Nate, we got together, at the EXPO, talked about that, and then really put a lot of the wheels in motion.
Yes.
The last couple months actually, with a lot of the tools that we are going to be offering with Optimus. So with like the things that I do as far as getting some data together, wanting to get a cohesive plan as far as ramping up content, building up the YouTube, building up the website. It made a lot of sense to come aboard and work with Nate, work with Jen, work with a lot of the people there to build something that can grow and thrive. And that's that's a lot different than what I have done as far as doing fantasy and joining different companies. So that made sense for me as far as rather than joining an established brand and, doing, because I still do writing for other sites and stuff like that, but like
Yes.
wanting to get on the ground floor with, Optimus and with Nate and Jen, who I believe as far as wanting to build something long lasting, that was very attractive as far as wanting to link up with them and then getting this off the ground. Because I think we have a lot of great people. We have a lot of great content creators, a lot of sharp people that, we just really need to get out there.
Yes.
So yeah, definitely check us out. Search Optimus Fantasy on YouTube, optimusfantasy.com. So everything that we do, we're going to be ramping it up, especially starting now with draft stuff. We're going to have a lot of video content, a lot of written content, in our podcast as well.
So is it like a whole? Can we say like Optimus is not just drafting or just podcasting or writing? Are you trying to make something that's special that can connect everybody in something different with Optimus?
Yeah, whether you like, draft, whether you like best ball, whether you like dynasty, whether you like, redraft, if you just consume podcasts or consume short form content, whether you want to get deep in the weeds with like data, there's a lot of things there's something for everybody as far as how you decide to, quench your fantasy thirst, so to speak, with, your comfort level of, maybe I want to dive right in. It's, after the draft and I'm just ready to go and get everything fantasy. You can do that. If you want to wait, and maybe kind of dip a toe in the water and, I just want to do some dynasty rookie drafts, and then we have all these tools as well. We have the trade analyzer, roster construction stuff as well too. So we have a lot, that we're building right now. Like we're by no means done as far as what we're offering. We have a lot more that we haven't announced yet coming to the table.
Step by step.
Exactly. It wasn't built in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day. So
no, I agree.
No, 2 days.
2 days. Are you are you putting out I don't know, are you interviewing for any jobs? Like, do you want people to connect with you to get a job as writers maybe, or interviewers, or anything that can help, the community know about what Optimus can offer, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're interested in writing, if you're interested in doing anything as far as written content, video work, even editing, like things like that. If you're interested, you want to get kind of in on the ground floor with, what we're building, reach out to me. My Blue Sky handle is right there. ktopkii.bluesky.social. Reach out to Nate Polvote as well. Yeah, we'll definitely talk to you as far as if you're interested. We'll try and find a place for you as far as cultivating, letting us know like what your goals are and then kind of tailoring it to that, because we don't just want to be like a closed off thing. We want to open the doors to people that want to be part of something special and want to be a part of something that we're building from the ground up. I think that's very important as far as places, sites that, because you see sites pop up almost every day and then they're gone.
Yes.
And that's, if I'm going to, put my name on something, I'm not going to go half measure. It's going to be full on. We're not, just going to up and, close up shop.
That's really cool, Kevin. I can't wish you but the best for this. And I do believe like having the idea to go step by step and get in there, it's the best thing you can do. And hopefully, your dream for Optimus from you and everybody else will come true. And we will talk at some point again on the show and see how far did you go? That's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how do you see fantasy football evolving in the next 5 years or so?
I do think that with a lot of like maybe like AI stuff, I think there's
Yes.
going to be more, interest in wanting to optimize some processes, some things that maybe, because AI is almost a hot button issue right now with what it can do. Maybe the things you don't want it to do versus actual like technical applications of it, using it to like code or using it to put things together that can get information easier and more palatable for people. So I think that's where I think fantasy is going to start growing more, where I do believe that we need to get information. I think the information that we can get to people, I think we can get it to them quicker. And I think with AI, that can certainly do that. I know with a lot of like sites, like we talk about, fantasy points data suite and PFF, obviously those are behind paywalls, but like there's limited amounts of data that you can kind of get from those sites. And I do believe, going forward, there's going to be more and more sites that offer more, robust kind of data and being able to explain the game of fantasy and explain football way better than we can. Like, from this point to 5 years ago, where were we? We were barely streaming, like live streaming right now.
Sure.
TikTok was very, very young, if was just getting off the ground at that point. So it seems like it's like 5 years away. We can make a lot of changes, and I think the place that we're going to be changing a lot more is with data, how information is delivered to people, and being able to get that to people quickly, and so you don't have to search through a bunch of different things to get what you want.
Yeah, it's becoming a little easy, but in my opinion, it's really tricky too. So, do you think using AI for fantasy football is kind of cheating? Why and why not?
I don't know if it's cheating. I mean, anything that we can use to get more information and make it easier for people to get said information, I don't think that's cheating. I just think that's being more efficient with how, because we only have so much time in the day. A lot of people obviously work jobs, they don't have kids, you don't have, all the time in the world to go look up, Brandon Cook's yards per out run from 2019 and then being able to put that into, and get his Whopper metric and doing all this other stuff. Like you can't, not everybody has that time, and not everybody's into like fantasy as much as that too. But I think with the information and being able to, get that out there to people, I think it's going to be what the NFL wants. NFL wants more hardcore fans of football that digest football 24/7. Like even we just talked about what fantasy was 5 years ago. Content, from football content, just the sport from 5 years ago has changed exponentially. Now we have NFL Plus. We have, obviously we've had Red Zone, but the Red Zone was just so revolutionary when that came out in like the mid 2000s.
Crazy.
But fantasy has changed how we watch football. The information has changed how we watch football. It's crazy to see, but I think just it's the information that's really going to get more people into the door as far as the barrier of entry, and then getting them more, in tune with what's going on. NFL Next Gen Stats is starting to put out a lot more stuff for the public, for the forward facing, consumer. I think we're going to see much more of that now. And a lot of that's having to do with AI as well.
Agreed. So talking about AI and the future, what's your superpower prediction for this year, Kevin?
What do you mean as far as what I want?
Your Super Bowl prediction.
Oh,
sorry. Not superpower. I'm thinking about a superpower thing, but your Super Bowl prediction.
My superpower Super Bowl prediction.
Yes.
I haven't thought about it too much,
We've
but
seen it.
I think the Bills are due. I mean, I think
Yeah.
they've had to watch the Chiefs, win an AFC championship and Super Bowl. And, we've had the Ravens had their time, and now we're starting to see, the teams like the Bengals and the Texans have had, kind of fleeting moments, but I think the Bills are finally due. Yeah, they're shooting lasers out of my eye, which, that was that picture, I believe, was 2020. That was during the pandemic. I clearly had way too much time on my hands to have lasers shoot out of my eyes. But
Oh my god.
yeah, and Justin JC, I don't think he's far off with Vikings Bills, because it's all going to be dependent on JJ McCarthy. But I still think the Eagles are the best team in the league, and I think it's going to be a Bills-Eagles Super Bowl if I had to make a prediction right now.
Yeah, it might be. I mean, the Eagles are strong, the Bills are strong. And yeah, I don't think Kansas City this year is gonna come near anything for Super Bowl. Even though I love that team.
That's where they get us. They lull us into that false sense of security, and then they go,
and then they just
16-1, and
smash it.
then they win each playoff game by 20 points, and we're watching Mahomes lift up another trophy, and Travis Kelce proposes to Taylor Swift, and we're right back into it.
I mean, I love their love story, like Kelsey and Swift, but I don't like how NFL is doing it. It's too much. We don't want to see a lot of that, and we want to see everybody else. But yeah, I get it at some points. It's all about money. So, Kevin, I really don't want to finish this interview with you, because I'm really interested in knowing more and more about the person that you are. You're very interesting, and thank you so much for coming tonight on the show. Yeah. But I do have a couple stuff to ask you, and I'm gonna ask this superpower. We're not gonna talk about the shooting lasers from your eyes, but if you have a superpower, Kevin, what would it be? And how would you use it?
Now I gotta think, because like there's the X, everybody can say X-ray vision. I do like the teleportation thing though. I might do that, because that's gonna save a lot of time. We talked about there's not enough time in the day to do things, and if I can knock out a lot of that, if I want to go where I want to go with teleportation, I think that might be the choice, as long as there's like no drawbacks to it. Like, with like, so like I don't have to like give up a kidney or something like that to go to like wherever. But yeah, I mean, I think it'd be teleportation.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. And I do have one more question I ask everybody I host, as if you can tell me a secret, Karen, that you never spoke of before, a secret or something that you did at a young age, but you never like said it out loud in front of anybody. What can you tell the game changers tonight?
Oh man. Okay, so this has to do with video games.
Okay.
So back in the day, when there's the Super Nintendo, there's this game called Chrono Trigger. It's a RPG, and I was the talk of my middle school, because I said I'd beaten it, and it was a very like it's some because I was a band geek. Let's just get that out there right now. So obviously the Venn diagram of people that play video games and people that are in band is it's like this. So talking with some of my circle, saying, "Oh yeah, I beat this and did all that." I didn't beat it. I read the book, and I had someone else beat it. So Tom Kocher in at Chestnut Hill Middle School. I'm sorry. Greg Kocher as well. I want to just my deepest sympathies. Yeah.
I love that, Kevin.
Can't
Thank
believe
you
he
so much
coaxed that
for
out of
sharing.
me.
I always do. I'm sorry. But that's the best part of the show every single time. So before I conclude, Kevin, can you please share how our audience can connect with you on social media? And please share, I know that you're not on X anymore, you're on Blue Sky, but tell people how they can connect in case they want to reach out for, for a job or something, if you guys are open for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Blue Sky at ktompkinsii .bsky.social. You can find me on there, as well as Optimus Fantasy. Just I believe my DMs are open on Blue Sky if you're on there.
Yeah.
You can also my account is still up on X. I don't check that as much anymore, but if you my DMs I know are open on there, so if you send something I will get to it. But as far as make sure you go check out Optimus Fantasy on YouTube, optimusfantasy.com as well. So we're doing a 6-hour stream for the draft tomorrow, which is going to be a lot of fun, and then we're going to be streaming on Friday as well. Our typical podcast time, and then we're just going to extend it out for day 2 of the NFL draft. So definitely check that out. We're going to have a lot of great people on there talking ball, probably making fun of some of the picks. I know I will be because I am admittedly not a college football person. And I am the staunch guy that says I wait until the rookies have landing spots before I say anything about them.
Yes.
So, it's my old man in a rocking chair curmudgeon in me, where everybody wants to talk about, this guy, he ran a 4.41, but this guy ran a 4.40, 4.4 flat. Like, I don't care. Just get him on a team and then I'll talk about it. But yeah, so I'll be the curmudgeon talking about that tomorrow on Optimus Fantasy. Check us out.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. So thank you everybody for keeping up with me tonight. It was crazy, but we made it work. Thanks to JC and Kevin for being my support tonight. Thank you for joining this episode of the Game Changers. I hope my discussion with Kevin provided valuable insights into his experiences in fantasy football and life itself. Join me for the next and last episode of the season before I take 2 months off, May and June. It's going to be April 30th, featuring Jim Coventry as my special guest. I would like to acknowledge JC for his contribution behind the scene and the entire TSA team. Please subscribe to our podcast because I'm not going from anywhere but YouTube from now on. Leave a review. Your feedback is really important for me and for my improvement. Follow us on social media for updates on upcoming episodes and be part of the Sports Affiliation community where everyone is welcome. Until next time, keep challenging the game and making your mark. This is Carla and Kevin signing off. Wishing you a pleasant evening, everybody.